Good evening. My name is Greg Moore with the Promise of Democracy Foundation and the Ohio Voter Fund, and I also serve as co-chair of the Ohio Citizens Redistricting Commission. The co-chair, Kathleen Clyde, could not be with us this evening, nor our secretary, who's in Washington, D.C., our vice chair, who's in Washington, D.C., on business related to redistricting. Janice will not be here as well. So tonight I will be moderating this meeting. And I want to, first of all, thank all of you for joining us tonight. We have a good turnout. Our commissioners are here and ready. And we have a full slate of 8 speakers who have asked to make presentations tonight. And so this is a very important gathering, and we want to make sure we save as much time as possible for our speakers. Let me start then. For everybody's ready to go, I'm going to call the attendance very quickly. First, Greg Moore, I'm here. Kathleen Clyde is not able to join us tonight. Barbara Sykes.
Present.
Tom Roberts, I believe Annette McCoy from the Trumbull County NAACP is here representing him.
Present, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Andre Washington from the A. Philip Randolph Institute. All right. Kathy Shanahan, all on the line, Ohio State Director. Sam Gresham, Common Cause Chair of the Board. Akile Butler, Ohio Student Association.
Present.
Thank you for joining. Dr. Richard Gunther.
Present.
Chris Trevino.
Chris Tavener, present.
Tavener, I do it every time. I'm sorry, Chris.
You're good, you're good.
Dr. Lise Regular, is that correct?
Here.
There we go. Jeremy Blake from the New
Here.
York City Council and Equality Ohio Board member.
Here.
Dr. Ellen Green Bush, are you with us? Thank you. And Alan Bannister, are you with us?
Present. Yep, present.
And Mina Barhomi, are you with us tonight?
I am here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate everybody joining us again. I'm sure some of the other commissioners will be joining soon as well. This is our 4th session. This is the second one related to Northeast Ohio, and it covers Akron, Canton, and Youngstown. And tonight we have an array of speakers from each of those areas, and probably no more prominent voice in the area of Northeast Ohio than our very own State Senator Vernon Sykes. It's a very busy time in the legislature, but this is important to him. He's been our leader on this issue in an area of reform. And we want to start our presentation tonight by giving him opening remarks and thanking him for his time with us tonight. Senator Sykes. And you're muted, Senator Sykes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I appreciate the opportunity to come before this distinguished body. You play a very important and significant role in this whole process. I just have a few minutes here, but I wanted to be able to give you a little history and background of why we are where we are. As you know, the litmus test for evaluating a democracy really lies within the ability to have self-determination, to be able to select representatives of our choice. And in the state, in this country, state of Ohio and this country, we really started this process with the Supreme Court decisions back in the 60s that established the principle of one man, one vote. And this principle puts emphasis on the fact that each representative that we have should have an equal number of population that it represents, because that means that the power and influence of each voter is somewhat identical. So it's important to have equal representation in each one of those districts that represent the people of this state and of this country. And in addition, we approved the Voter Rights Act back in 1965 to try to make sure that we protect the interests of the minority. Minority rights are protected. With those two principles, then each 10 years, based on our census, we reapportion districts to fairly represent the interests of the citizens in this country. Now, over the years, since the beginning of this state, the population has grown each census. But unfortunately, in the state of Ohio, it's grown disproportionately with the total nation. For instance, our population has grown about 2.3% in the last 10 years. And in some southern and western states, the population has grown 10%. So what's happened then is when we reapportioned the districts fairly amongst the 435 districts within the country, we find that Ohio is losing districts. Back in the 60s, we had 24 districts, 24 congresspersons to represent us. And now we have 16, and based on the 2020 census, we know that we're going to dwindle down to 15 districts. Not only have we shifts within the states and between the states, but within the state of Ohio, we've also made some shifts. And within the last decade, Franklin County in the Columbus area is now the largest county, and there's more district interest in that particular area. Historically, the lines have been drawn by partisan groups. The General Assembly has drawn the congressional lines, and the state district lines, the House and the Senate, have been drawn by an apportionment board, which consists of the governor, the secretary of state, and the auditor. And one member representing the House and the Senate make up a 5-member body. And both of those bodies in this last 2021 line drawing contest was controlled by one party, the Republican Party. And the Republican Party used their majority to construe the most effective gerrymandered districts in the nation. And they were largely non-competitive districts. An example is the Snake on the Lake, Marcy Kapler's district, and the Duck District, Jim Jordan's district. These are atrocious. And I want to say that gerrymandering has been an equal opportunity activity. The Democrats use it when they're in control, and the Republicans use it when they're in control. The basic policy and objective of politics is to win. And so you find that political parties are always advocating for the party's interests, partisan interests. Now, the citizens of the state have always been interested and support the concept of fair districts. But the partisan control of the legislators have been able to fend off any movement for fair districts up until lately. In fact, there's been issues on the ballot in 1981, in 2005, and 2012, but they were defeated because one party or the other was opposed to and vehemently opposed those districts. Well, I served as co-chair of the Constitution Modernization Commission, and also I served on the redistricting committee in this last redistricting effort in 2011. And I was just appalled at the way the districts were drawn. And serving on the Constitution Modernization Commission, there was a lot of emphasis and a lot of interest in trying to draw and come up with fairer districts. Our current president of the Senate, Matt Huffman, was also a member of that commission. He approached me and said the thought that we might be able to come to a compromise and come up with a plan for fair districts in the state of Ohio. And so we started to work on that with interested parties being involved, we were able to come up with some maps. Now, the strategy was because it's so difficult to wrench the power away from people who have it. We could not take on both the congressional districts and the legislative districts at the same time, the state legislative districts. So we decided to take on the state legislative districts first. And we were successful in putting an issue on the ballot in 2015. And again, once we had kind of a bipartisan support for it, the support from the community was overwhelming. It was 72% vote to approve it. Then in 2018, we did the congressional districts, and again, with 75% of the vote overwhelming. And it has been extremely important that we've always had input from the League of Women Voters, Common Cause, and organizations like yourself, redistricting interests, to give us input in this process. It's been extremely important. We have been able to draw up rules and guidelines that's going to help us, guidelines like transparencies and open meetings and being able for any citizen to submit maps and certain criteria like not to favor or disfavor unduly any political party. But what has kept us on and involved and kept fair districts on the table has been the citizens' activism. The League of Women Voters are constantly pushing, and now the voters themselves enacting these two provisions are important. And the work that you do now is extremely important in providing information to the general public and allowing them to be able to draw maps and get information about the process. The challenge, and to finally finish up, the challenge that we have that face us now, for the most part, is the census data. Usually by April, we have the census data. Because of the pandemic, that has been delayed. It's projected we won't get it until August 16th, with the first constitutional deadline being September 1st. Is going to be difficult to get all of the public hearings in. Maybe the Supreme Court may have to intervene. We don't know at this time, but organizations like yours is going to help us and the citizens of this state to use the new process to maximize the fairness of the districts in the state of Ohio. And I'd like to thank you for your efforts and appreciate the opportunity to have a chance to share with you a little bit of the history of these districts.
Well, Senator Sykes, we can't thank you enough for that firsthand account of a history of a very, very difficult struggle. And we appreciate you and the leadership you've shown on this issue. I know you have to run, but if there's anybody who have a very quick question for you that would like to answer, now is the time to do that. Does any one of our commissioners have a quick question for Senator Sykes before he has to leave out?
Do we have any idea when the Ohio Redistricting Commission is going to be appointing the 4 legislative members?
We don't. We are in discussion with the minority and majority caucuses are in discussion now. There are some amendments being proposed for the budget that we're trying to finalize by July 1st that may include provisions that may deal with that. But we've got to move forward pretty fast because the date is going to be here August 16th. And we've got a short fuse turnaround. So it's on the table and we're negotiating it now.
Great. Maybe you have time for one more and then we can let you go, Senator. Is there any other question anyone may have? I guess I have one, which is just what prospects do you see for us being able to do both? I think one is the congressional and one is the legislative, but do you believe that we can do both of those in that time period that we have between August 16th and the end of September?
Absolutely. There's a slightly different timetable. We haven't a little later timetable for the other districts. So I think we have enough time. It's just that we may need some intervention by the Supreme Court, some interpretation, if we can, to see how it, and if we can adjust the time schedule to make sure we have enough time for enough input from citizens like yourself.
Great, great. Well, again, Senator Sykes, thank you so much for that history. It sort of brings to life how important this gathering is as we continue to go around the state, and we will be in Southeast Ohio in the next couple of weeks. So thank you again for your time. And again, you're welcome anytime if there are updates you would like to give our commission before we wrap up our business here.
And thank you particularly for your work.
But thank you. It's good to see you again. Travel safe. All right. And I want to also acknowledge Tom Roberts has joined us again. Thank you, Tom, for being here tonight. Well, we're going to start our testimonies and then we're going to run right through them. And I know we may have some people joining us a little late. By the way, Janice Blake did send me a note saying she will be joining late. Again, she had a number of meetings in Washington, D.C., along with the other leadership team member, Prentice Hanley, as part of the leadership team with the Philip Randolph Institute, and Tom Roberts from the NAACP. And so hopefully Andre Washington from APRI will be joining us as well. And we thank them again for their leadership in pulling this commission together.
Hey, Greg.
Yes.
Tom Roberts. Annette McCoy is on. I don't know if I got her in the right channel, but she is Warren Trumbull County NAACP president. So she's willing to give some testimony this evening as well. She's on the line. I see her.
Yes. Thank you so much for that, Tom. And I do know we did have another name for the NAACP, but both are welcome to say a few words if that's possible. And so we're going to get to that a little bit later, but we do have the branch president of the Akron branch representative, Jayam Bio. Is that correct? Okay. Well, we'll see how we go down the line, but let's first acknowledge Sam Gresham. Commissioner Gresham have joined us. Thank you again for being here tonight, Sam, for your presence. I believe our first speaker is going to be Minister Ray Green, who's the Executive Director of Freedom Bloc. Ray, are you with us? Okay.
He is. He should be rejoining as a panelist momentarily.
All right. We see your sign there. And there you go, Ray. Good to see you. Thanks for
How are you, sir, Brother Greg?
the floor is yours for the next three minutes, if you can.
Thank you. I won't take that long. Good evening, everyone. I am Reverend Ray Green, Executive Director of the Freedom Bloc, Summit County, Ohio, Akron. I am a lifelong resident of Akron and have been working as a grassroots political operative for over 15 years now. I know firsthand how the lack of representation has hurt my community, from the war on drugs to unfair, unjust housing discrimination. The way the urban communities have been redlined over the decades that forces Black people, that forces brown people and poor people into one concentrated area, usually separated from opportunity by a highway. It only becomes right that we are equipped with our own representation. I'm here today advocating for minority opportunity districts. They are important for the democracy of all people, especially the marginalized people, forcing marginalized groups of people to fight for resources in a system that regularly gives them resources to the rich and not the poor. It's not the democracy that Ohio deserves, and definitely not the democracy that my fellow Akronites deserve. Sharing a representative throughout so many different districts in Cleveland and Canton is not serving us well. We deserve a democracy that listens to the voices of all of its people. And the way our districts are designed right now, that is just not happening. It is virtually impossible for our representatives to encompass the voices of all of the people that they have to represent through this gerrymandered process that we have right now. It has caused Black and brown people and poor people to continue to suffer and have to suffer in silence. And when we do speak, it falls on deaf ears because we don't have proper representation. So the Freedom Bloc is here today asking that we end gerrymandering and implement minority opportunity districts that allow for all people to be represented equally and fairly through the drawing of fair lines and fair districts. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you, Minister Green, and thanks. And I'm glad to hear about your elevation to a minister. Last time I talked to you, you were just Ray Green, so it's good to see you there. And thanks for all your work that you continue to do in all of Akron and Northeast Ohio.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you coming. Our next speaker on the list is Willa Evans. Is Willa Evans from the A. Philip Randolph Institute. Do we have Willa Evans?
We do. She should also join momentarily.
All right, thank you so much for that. We are ready to go if you are.
I am here. I'm sorry. I was trying to unmute. Hello,
Hey.
everyone.
Good evening, how are you? Feel free to go ahead with your testimony. Thank you for joining us tonight.
I just wanted to say, so I'm from the greater Cleveland area. And from my experience with the redistricting and the gerrymandering, as the minister just spoke from Akron, it is really divided. It has put pretty much a fine line between the working class, the working class and the poor working class, and Black and brown. And I think, and I'm not talking Republican or Democrat, but what we've had is people that don't have the same interests of the ones who really have to work hard to try and get a fair shake. What we're doing in Cleveland is trying our best to work, because this is so very important, for us to get out here and make sure that people understand. People want to say, oh, I'm Republican or I'm Democrat. I love what you said, what Senator Sykes said about the issues. It's not about who we are vote for, but about the issues and what it does for us to pull our stuff up. And that's all. I just wanted to try and keep it under a couple of minutes. Thank you so much for having me as a panelist.
Thank you very much, Ms. Evans. And again, thank you to the A. Philip Randolph Institute on the leadership of for all the work that you all have done to put the commission together and to keep the issue center. Thank you for your time and your testimony. Before we go to our next speaker, I want to acknowledge our vice chair has joined us, Janice Brock. Janice, thank you for being here tonight. We know you're between meetings in Washington, but thank you for taking the time to listen in. Our next speaker on the list I have is, this is where we have the representative from the NAACP. And since I see you, Annette McCoy, would you like to go ahead and make a few remarks from Trumbull County NAACP? If you can unmute yourself, you can go ahead with your remarks, Ms. McCoy. Okay. All right, I don't know if you can hear us. Annette McCoy, can you hear us? If not, let's go ahead and try to see if we can pull up Joe Giambo from the NAACP Akron branch. Do we have you available?
I don't think he's on the line.
He's not on the line yet. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and keep it moving. And if they can join us before we get through, that'll be fine. The next speaker I have on the list is Teresa LaGreer from the Akron Urban League. Teresa LaGreer, are you there?
I believe no.
Okay. Well, this is a busy night for many people, I know. We are going to keep it moving, and we're going to now see if the Representative Thomas West is on the line. Now, we know the Assembly is meeting now as we speak, and so I don't know if he'll join us, but let's ask if Representative Thomas West, who was the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus President, are you with us? Okay.
Greg,
Annette McCoy is on.
Well, great. Please go forward with your comments and then we will be happy to hear them. Thank you for getting back.
Okay. And again, I want to thank you all for the invite. I'll be very brief. In Trimble County, we are going to see movement where we're going to be divided from Mahoney County. And again, the resources that we currently have available for the Valley will no longer be a focus for Trimble County, because the redistricting will have a major impact on healthcare in our area. Is going to have an impact on our educational system. And currently we see more and more of a trend that more things are moving in that Canfield, in that Boardman, in that Poland area. So with Trimble County being separated out of Mahoney County, that will have a major impact on what's going to happen for the future of our youth. We see a lot of industries currently coming back into the area. More resources are currently going to be provided within the next 3 to 4 years. But right now, with the changes in the redistricting, and I'm going to say not just people of color, but with Trimble County having more than 65% of a poverty level, we will not have a voice. And with basically Representative Tim Ryan being moved out of our district and possibly losing, but we will be losing that representation at federal level, it will be a major impact for Trimble County. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think we have a person from the chat who want to get your contact information. If you can, Ms. McCoy, just let us know how they can reach you.
I will put it in the chat. Thanks.
Thank you so much. All right. I think we have a speaker joining by the phone. And if I'm reading this correctly, is there anyone joining us by the phone? I'm sorry. So the next speaker that we have is Veronica Sims. Are you there, Veronica Sims?
She should rejoin as a panelist.
All right, thank you. Veronica Sims, are you there? There you are. Well, thank you for joining us tonight. Go ahead and unmute yourself and feel free to reintroduce yourself as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. As was mentioned, my name is Veronica Sims, and I'm privileged to serve as the 5th District Representative on Summit County Council in Summit County, Ohio. I just have a few words, actually prepare the statement. Having proportionate representation is paramount to democracy. Anything less than that is a complete affront to that. Gerrymandering efforts that render certain pockets of our constituents in Ohio, that render certain parts of our constituents of Ohio still voiceless after full participation in the process. They register, they engage in better understanding of issues and candidates, and they cast their votes. Rendering them still voiceless because they don't have representation is a travesty and should not be happening in the 21st century. Fair and honest districts that are fully representative of the people of Ohio are the crux of good leadership and the cornerstone for creation of good public policy for all residents of Ohio, no matter your race, gender representation, culture, or your zip code. Fair and honest districts are the path to keeping Ohio's promise and upholding the firm hand of great democracy. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share my thoughts this evening and to join my voice with the melodic chorus of residents far and wide across the state of Ohio, calling for access to fair representation. Something that can only be realized when people are returned to their intended positions of being able to elect their representatives over representatives being able to select their voters, as my leader, Amelia Sykes, often reminds us. So again, thank you for the opportunity to be here and to join my voice with those across the state of Ohio.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman Sims, and I really do appreciate you taking the time to join us. Let me just ask if there any commissioner who has a question for the councilwoman. I see Tom Roberts' hand. Thank you, Tom.
Well, thank you, Chairman, and to Veronica. It's good seeing you again,
You
Councilwoman
as well.
Sims. Hey, something that Annette McCoy said, and just give me your feeling and Summit County's thinking. You're going to lose Tim Ryan. What is the thought process? That's going to be one of those seats that Ohio will lose. So what is the mood or the thinking of the residents in Summit, Mahoney, the valley there, of how the lines will be drawn? You know what I'm asking? Because right now you have Cleveland coming all the way down to Akron. You're going to lose Congressman Ryan. What is the mood or the thinking of what your district's going to look like, and what would you like to see it look like?
One of the challenges I think we've always had in Summit County was like a crazy mock-up of how we get divided. And I think that has really lessened our voice and our power in the at the federal level. We are very concerned about the loss of Tim Ryan's seat, but I still think there is the challenge of really, COVID didn't help us a whole lot, but really educating our constituents about what that means and how important, it is that we get fair districts so that we maintain the semblance of representation. So without question, that is a concern for us. And that is a big loss for us.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you.
Was there any other commissioner who had a question for the councilwoman? And I do know our census numbers won't be in here until the middle of August, but I do know Northeast Ohio will take a population hit. If there's going to be a loss of population, it's likely to come from Northeast Ohio, from Cuyahoga over to the Mahoning Valley. So that is something we do want to keep in mind as we look at how this fair representation that Minister Green and others talked about will take place.
Not that everybody cares about that, Mr. Moore, but it is significant, and it could be very hurtful particularly for communities of color. And so, when we talk fair districts, we are talking about that, but proportionate representation is crucial. I think the absence of potentially those voices could prove very harsh to our community. So thank you again for the opportunity to be here today.
I think you have one more question from Sam Gresham from the Comment Calls Chair of Ohio. Tom? Sorry, Sam.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Councilperson, if you had to configure a group of communities together to satisfy your need in your community, what would they be?
So I would think more like Summit County, Stark, and down in those areas, not way up north to Cuyahoga County. So I think that would be. I think the similarities between those two areas are much more than what things currently are.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And again, thank you again for taking the time to join us tonight. You're welcome to stay on and listen to the rest of the conversation. And then we do have, again, a number of issues we will be discussing at the end of this process as we go to other parts of the state. But again, thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
All right. I know there are a couple of speakers we're still waiting to have come on. I do know Representative West may very well be tied up in the legislature. And again, the mayor, Tito Brown of Youngstown, I don't think we have him on the line just yet. And so while we are waiting for the next speaker, did anyone have a general question you would like to raise or discussion item while we have a little bit of time here before we get our last speakers on?
Hi, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I'm wondering, I hear the comments that we're going to lose Tim Ryan. And I understand that Tim Ryan is running for another position. So when you say we're going to lose Tim Ryan, you mean the individual, or I don't know if there's a foregone conclusion that we're going to lose that district. So when people say we're going to lose Tim Ryan, do you mean the district or do you mean himself as a congressional member?
It's my understanding that he's running for the Senate.
Yes, he's running for the Senate. So are we interested in self-determination and representation, or are we talking about an individual?
So, Chair, Mrs. Sykes.
That's fine.
It is my, people are saying to me, Ohio's going to lose one seat.
Yes.
And then the next word is it's going to be the Tim Ryan district.
Yeah. So I'm saying, how is that determined before the process actually began? That it's going to be that.
Well, the makeup of that district right now will have to be made up, and this is what I'm trying to figure out. You know, I'm not sure all of his areas. So if you take away that district, what's direction do you go? You know, and do you go to Akron? Do you go to Trumbull? Do you go to Canton? So that was really what's trying to get at. If you take away that district,
we're looking at that district most likely will change significantly.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, the district is going to change. I believe it's because of the population loss. For the size of how you create a House district. You've lost so many people up there. So whatever you do to create I think what's the base, 750,000 people, or I don't know what the number is for a House district. I know the configuration is going to be different than what it is now because of that population loss.
Well, I do want to raise something that that the councilwoman mentioned, that industry is coming back into the Mahoney Valley. If that's true, then that window of time we have between the time the census was conducted in 2020 and 2030 is how we lose millions of dollars of resources. And so this is one of those things where it just makes it so clear that the census effort that we were all involved in is so intricately involved with this process. And so it's going to be tough. And I know that that's something that we want to continue to advocate for this region, that we do have a changing demographic, and that can make all the difference in the world. There's a lot of information in the chat going on right now if you want to follow some of that.
Yeah, but we won't actually get the census information until August 16th.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And we won't be able to change it until 2030, right? So we hope there's a boom in the valley, but we do know that could hurt.
Well, Chairman Moore, Annette McCoy is still on the Lordstown plant. They're looking at making electric trucks there. And so that's some excitement in that community, you know, because you look at it from Kent State, Portage, Summit, all the way down. So they're looking at boom, we're going to get the plant back to build trucks, electric trucks. And so that is having a great impact and excitement in that valley right now.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, please go ahead.
Councilperson Sims, you raised an issue with me. The Boardman configuration as a community. I've been to Youngstown on several occasions. Is that where the industry is going and commercial development? Is it going to Youngstown per se? Where is it going?
It's going, this is Annette, it's going to the Boardman, Poland area. We see everything from healthcare, hospitals, areas moving towards Canville, more of that going towards the East Liverpool area, further south of Mahoney.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Right. And again, from the chat, we do know there's a lot of comments coming in, but one I want to raise from Tara Cunningham, that less people and thus more counties. So they mentioned Summit, Stark, Trumbull, Mahoney, and Portage counties could be a part of this reconfiguration that's going on. So this will affect many other areas as well. And I do know we had a conversation last week about whether or not there would be alliances or, you know, reconstruction with the 11th congressional district. So all that is going to be a part of this conversation. which is a very interesting one, I must say. I am not seeing that the other speakers that we have been able to join just yet. And I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. I do know we are still had planned for Kurt Norton, who's a board member of the OOC, as well as representative from the Akron branch of the NAACP and the Akron Urban League. If any of those people are on right now, now is the time to make yourself known. And of course, Mayor Tito Brown. I'd like to also acknowledge that Percy Squire, from a civil litigation lawyer, has prepared a document for us to review. And that will be something we will be circulating to all the commissioners. I don't know if Mr. Squire is on the phone now. I know he said he was not prepared to testify tonight, but I do want to acknowledge that we have received his message and his testimony will be written as part of our official record.
Greg, I see Jeremy has his hand up, but I don't think Judy Hill is able to testify. Didn't someone named Joe testify just a few minutes ago?
No, we didn't hear from Joe.
Okay, Joe is going to represent her if he can be on, but Judy Hill said she will not be able to be on. So she's the Akron president.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
If Joe is around on the line, if we could bring him in, that'd be great.
Jeremy had his hand up.
I'm sorry, Jeremy, please go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to recognize that Randy Gonzalez in the chat said that he would like to testify. So if we have time, he seems to be on the call, and he put in the chat that he wanted to make a testimony.
Randy Gonzalez. And where's he from again, Jeremy?
I just saw he put a comment in the chat. He must be an audience member and wanted to testify to the commission.
Okay. I know we want to get 24-hour notice, but if he's on the line and has a few minutes, I think we can, I can do the ruling of the chair now, so I don't have a co-chair to say yes or no. But if Randy Gonzalez is ready to say something, if we can bring him on, that would be great. And Randy is with the Stark County Democratic Party.
Yes. Am I on now? Yes. I was actually listed as giving my testimony tonight. I did sign up, and you guys sent me this link is the reason I'm here.
Oh, I'm so sorry, sir. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining.
I have a written testimony that I have submitted. I submitted a map that we are, first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Randy Gonzalez. I'm the elected fiscal officer in Jackson Township in Stark County, Ohio. Jackson Township is about 41,000 people. It's very similar to Austintown, Boardman, Perry, Plain. The map that I have submitted, I'm also the economic development director there and the former chairman of the Stark County Democratic Party. I've worked with Trumbull and Mahoning County for years. And I want to reiterate what was said, that brilliant minds think alike, because we had not spoke. I think it's a perfect, and you'll see the map that we submitted would call for a district that would put together Stark County, Mahoning County, and Trumbull County, largely because we all have the same issues. And we have been like the poster child of gerrymandering. The issues that we have, if we've all lost steel mills, car manufacturers, good paying jobs that people could afford to raise families on, those three counties have all lost those types of jobs. And right now we're facing those issues, and we have representation in Stark County that is from a farm area. He has no representation to what our problems are. So I would like to reach out and say that map would work out perfectly for us. I believe that I would think the people in Trumbull County and in Mahoning County would feel the same way. We have been used to get picked on just to get numbers out, to get where they needed to be at. We got some thrown here. For example, in Stark County, we have 3 congressmen. We had one forever. In my community in Jackson Township, there's a swath that comes down through that went down so that it could pick up one company. The rest of Stark County is represented by one person, and then Tim Ryan has a very small portion of it. If you put those 3 together, I think it reaches about 788,000 people. It's 7,800,000 people that have the same issues, same problems. And it would be, I think we would have somebody that actually could come in and know what they were talking about for the whole district. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And I believe that number, we've been bouncing that number around in the chat. The last number I saw was 747,184 is the number we're looking for each district. But I think again, the data will come in mid-August, so we'll know for sure. Let me ask any of the commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Gonzalez regarding his comments? And of course, we'll hear more on his testimony once we circulate it, but is there any questions in general for Mr. Gonzalez? Sam Gresham, please.
Muted here. The configuration that you're suggesting, bringing those counties together, what are the political realities that happening? Are people willing to do that, or are there some concerns they may have with that direction?
I believe they are. I mean, we heard testimony earlier, someone that brought that up of combining with Stark. If you look at the maps that have been drawn, what I really disagree with some of the ones I've seen is they've took and cut up townships. They've cut townships in half. I don't think we should do any districts where we're cutting a political subdivision in half. And if you look at the districts that we're talking about, cities like Youngstown and Canton have huge similarities, same populations almost, same types of infrastructure, same types of problems. And then you have this huge groups of townships that have got disrespected for years. I mean, if you look at Boardman, Jackson, Perry, Plain, I would say that all of those townships are probably within the top 25 of size in Ohio. So the similarities, I think the people would look forward to joining together.
It's an important point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Gonzalez from any of our commissioners?
I would like to thank you and all the commissioners for this job you're doing. It's such an important job, and thank you so much for giving your time. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for taking the time to come and to join our discussion tonight, and we look forward to the ongoing discussion. Okay, I'm going to go back and see if we have any of the other speakers who have signed up to speak. And, you know, the mayor, Representative West, Teresa LaGreer, Joe Jamboui from the NACP, or Kirk Noten. Are any of those representatives on the line right now? Okay. All right. We're going to do a going once and going twice. Well, look, I know that we had a good turnout tonight of people who wanted to speak, and certainly we have a number of people on the line who are not speaking but are listening. And so again, I think it's important that this dialogue continue. This is our second conversation in Northeast Ohio, and as you can see, the issues are quite different between Cleveland and the further east you go and further south you go. So that's an important distinction to have. I do want to point out two things. A little bit of housekeeping. One is that a memo was circulated by Dick Gunther that lays out some of the general principles around criteria. And I would urge all of our commission members to read that and then continue this discussion as we go through the other hearings. Also, I want to thank Dr. Ellen Green for sending her memo around of her testimony, which talked about the intersection between money and politics as a part of this whole effort on the part of American Promise. We thank you for your leadership on that, and we look forward to keeping that issue front and center as we go through this process. I do want to let our commissioners know and our audience know that our next hearing is going to be in Southeast Ohio. It's going to be a region of the state that we have not had major large urban population centers, but it is an area that represents a lot of people who are in need of fair representation as well. And so if you have contacts, friends, relatives in Southeast Ohio, whether it's Chillicothe, whether it's Athens, Ohio, some of the other areas in that area, south of Columbus and on the border of West Virginia. That is where we will be on the 8th of July after the holidays. It's important that we, again, try to build representation from that region. So I'll urge all our commissioners to please join us in outreach to that area. I'll do one more call for any scheduled speaker who was not able to get on yet. And if not, we will give your time back to you this evening. All right. And are there any other further questions or comments anyone would like to make before we close out tonight?
Co-Chair Moore, I just wanted to lift up a question in the chat. Someone asked whether or not this commission is allowed to discuss the legislative maps for the Senate and the House for Ohio itself. So I just wanted to, if we could give an answer to them.
Well, the map making that the end of this process will include us gathering all of these testimonies that we've been given and some of your expertise and some of the data that would have come out by then. And then we will begin to draw what our vision of fair maps would be. Now, there have been several, and Janice can probably answer this better than I can. There have been several hundred maps introduced and submitted already through our portal. And so there's going to be a painstaking task of getting that through. We also have committees that are being formed of this commission that will begin to look at things like criteria, minority representation, and the like. So we are looking forward to community outreach as well as communications. So we are looking forward to building that data, building these testimonies, and then putting some time aside as we get to August and September for those discussions. Hopefully, when the legislature and the governor decides to appoint a commission, much of the work we believe that we've been able to do over these past several months will be prepared and ready and open for their review. And again, if we do our job right, fair maps will be how this story is going to end. So the answer, I believe, Chris, is yes. We will be able to look at those districts and make some determination on how those might look. Now I have a message here that Thomas West, Representative West, is making his way on the Zoom call, so we can stand by for just a few minutes to hear the chair of the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus and his view. That would be extremely important in this period that we're in now.
In between time, Mr. Moore, I want to say thank you to my mentor, my forever mentor, Barbara Sykes, for crystallizing the issue around the district between the representative and representation, because I think that's what this conversation is really about, not the representative. I think that's been part of the challenge down through the years, is that representatives have been choosing their voters versus voters choosing their representatives. So I thank her for crystallizing that. Either, and I was under the assumption too, the word on the street about what's happening to that, to his current position and it going away. But I'm glad to have again my mentor mention that the data isn't out yet, and so we're still waiting to see that. And so we'll see when that happens. But thank you again for having me. It was really appreciated.
No, you've added much to the conversation tonight. Thank you. I do see a couple of questions here about how do people submit comments. And again, there's a portal. If we can get the portal link to that portal submitted in the chat, we will be able to let people know they can go ahead and submit their maps and submit their testimonies there. And again, all of those will be shared, printed up and shared with the entire commission. I guess it's ohioredistrict.org/work. Thank you, Colleen, for that. Chris, did we answer your question? I think I didn't double check with you, but was that pretty much the answer?
I mean, I think hopefully that answers the question that someone raised in the chat. So yeah, I thought that was the answer, but I wanted to make sure that I was raising it up to you.
Sure. No, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So again, we're waiting for the final speaker, Representative Thomas West. And as soon as he gets on, we will bring him on. In the meantime, Any other questions or comments? Dick, do you want to just say I'm sorry, Sam, go ahead.
Have the council person here. How much activity are we generating from the standpoint of interest in your community about redistricting?
You know, we've talked about in our communities, you know, COVID certainly had its impediments, and connecting it to the importance to the census since the beginning. You know, this is not redistricting and the need for it and the hope that we would get that going as a result of the overwhelming approval of the voters has always been on our radar. Does there need to be more discussion? Without question, but it's always been on our radar and part of the conversation. You know, it's in the district that I serve. You know, I run from the poorest part of the county to the most opulent part of the county. But for that area where we really suffer a lot because we don't do the census, you know, we have pushed and emphasized that, but we can never talk enough about it, and the need for participation in the process. So I think in a nutshell, it's an ongoing conversation, but opportunities like this for people to hear, join, and lend their voice are important, and I hope we continue to do that. So thank you for the question.
Just to follow up on that, when the maps are presented, I assume there will be a lot more participation. Would you agree with me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So, Mr. Chairman, and I know you said Janice is in DC, but maybe at some point she can talk to the commissioners again, because initially there were grants, small grants that will be given. I say this to the councilwoman, small grants to bring people together, 25 people together to testify, or 25 people to show up at a hearing and have people sit down and talk about maps. And so I think the opportunity to get a small grant to do that kind of work is still out there. So I would just kind of keep my ears and I will see how we can get the word back out, because I think, from my understanding, the money is still there. We just need to generate the conversations that bring together 25 people to testify in these hearings, 25 people to testify or show up at the official hearing when it shows up. So really, it's there. I see Senator West is there. So go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Well, first of all, thank you, Senator West, for joining us. We know you're extremely busy tonight. And just let you know, we did hear from Randy Gonzalez earlier from the Stark County Democratic Party. So, but thank you tonight, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to come in and talk a little bit about redistricting, why it's so important to the 49th district, but more specifically, how it's so important for the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus. As you all know, we have Senator Sykes, who is representing the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus, and of course, our own our leader, Amelia Sykes, who is doing a wonderful job as well. I can say this, first of all, I'm just a representative just now, so I will gladly take that title someday, but not just yet. So I appreciate that as well. But redistricting is very important to the 49th district. You know, one of the things that, you know, we're up here fighting for is just fairness. And making certain that it's equitable all across the state of Ohio. We need that to occur. Drawing very clear, safe, and how can I say it, not safe, but fair maps so that individuals have the opportunity not only to run for an office and have a competitive advantage to, or a competitive race, and if we do not create those type of fair maps, then we'll have the same thing we've always gotten. We've gotten things shoved down our throats. I don't need to tell you, just today, we've got a bunch of stuff shoved down our throats that wasn't even about Ohio, okay? It was about an agenda that individuals had, and believe it or not, they stuck it to us. We need to make certain that the people's voice is heard, and that's on both sides of the aisle. That's on both sides of, that's all of our community. When we have fair districts, then we all of our voices are heard. So it's very crucial that we definitely draw fair maps. I'd like to see Stark County whole, you know, so that when Stark County is made whole, then I'm not looking to 3 or 4 different legislators and some people that are outside my district that don't know anything about an inner city. It's important for me to be able to rely on somebody that understands Canton and Maslin and all the districts within the 49th district. Somebody that understands the needs of African Americans all across the state of Ohio. And having that representation all across, not just here at the state level, but also at the federal level. So with that being said, you know, I just wanted to just jump on real quick and make a few statements, but for the most part, I will come back and give you a little bit more detail in and how I would like to see those maps drawn and why I feel it's so important. So thank you for hosting me and having me today. And believe it or not, I didn't have this on my calendar, but I thank God anyway, any opportunity I get to talk about fair districts and this redistricting process. So thank you all.
Well, thank you, Representative West, and sorry for the mix-up on your title, but I do want to say this: as president of the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus, we know how important that title is. And when the rubber hits the road, we know that the OLBC will be there, and it is a crucial player when it comes down to the final say. So having your presence in this process early on is extremely important. And we really want to make sure we stay in touch with your caucus as we get ready to start looking at the data, looking at the testimonies, and coming back through to see where the communities of interest will land. So thank you again. We know it was a busy night for you tonight, but thank you again. Is there anybody who have a question for Representative West while we have them?
I don't have a question, but I will say, Representative West, that you look like a senator to me.
He had me fooled too.
Okay, well, hey, we'll speak it into existence. That's for sure, Sister Sykes.
Girl district, get us another senator, Representative West.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, you know, we're going to have to really start reaching out to all of our Ohio and get some good candidates out here so that even when people play, even when the lines are drawn wrong, we still need to make certain that we can find individuals that carry their counties and their cities and really get out there to work on behalf of Ohio. We got to get good people up here at the legislature that represents people. Don't represent red and blue, but represents red, white, and blue. And that's the United States of America. And when we all do that, that's when we win. Yes, we want fair districts, but yes, we want good legislators up here that represents the Ohioans and that represents individuals and who are pro Ohio and pro America. That's my 2 cents. So God bless you all and have a good evening. Okay.
Thank you so much. And that's a great way to end our session tonight because you really hit the nail on the head. I will again thank all of our commissioners for joining us tonight. I want to thank all of our speakers and panelists who joined us. I want to thank all of you who put information and questions in the chat. Thank you to Mr. I think Benjamin, who put some information from the Pew Charitable Trust in here earlier. I think it was Barry Benjamin. Thank you for that, as well as the questions from so many of you. This has been a great session. We again will reconvene on Thursday, July 8th at 6 p.m. to have the Southeast Ohio public hearing. Again, we urge you to join us to keep this conversation going. And again, we look forward to seeing you all over the next, in just the next 2 weeks. So on behalf of the entire co-chair, Kathleen Clyde, and our vice chair, Denise Brock, and all the commissioners, thank you and have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good night.